Hi, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to start styling the About section. Let us get started. In this video, we will add CSS to the left side elements of About section. I will go to the style.css and I will create a new section by adding comments for About section. Okay. If we look at the HTML markup for About section, we have About content box div element. We want this content box to float to the left side of About section. I'll select this About content box inside the style.css. As you know, to float an element, we use Css Float property. I'll set it to the left. The float CSS property specifies that an element should be taken from the normal flow and placed along the left or right side of its container. In this case, we want About content box to be placed on left side of About section because on right side we would have diagonal background image. Next, I want to set the height for this box. And the value for the height is 700 pixel. The reason I set 700 pixel because when we will design a diagonal background image on right side of About section, that will also has height of 700 pixel. Therefore, the left and right sides of About section should have equal heights. I will go ahead, I'll save these files and we will see result inside the web browser. In this video, we will use Open in Browser extension because we will be working on Chrome Developer Tools, and you know the brackets live preview feature stops working when we open Chrome Developer Tools. Therefore, I'll open this index.html file using Open in Browser extension. I'll click on this icon. I'll scroll down to the About section. I'll right click on the About section, I'll select Inspect and it will open Chrome Developer Tools for us. I'll move the Chrome Developer Tools to the right side. Okay, we have About section and inside the About section we have a container div. You can also see the blue highlighted area on the left side of browser window. Inside the container we have a row. Inside the row we have used a bootstrap 4 columns, and inside these 4 columns we have About content box element, and you can see the CSS rules applied to this About content box under the style span. You can see it is floated to the left and the height is set to 700 pixel. You can also see the height of this content box in the dimension label. We need to vertically align the heading, text and button elements in the middle of About content box, and for vertically alignment we created two divs, the content box outer div and the content box inner div. We need to set some CSS rules to these two divs so we can vertically align the content in the middle of About content box. I'll get back to the brackets code editor and I'll copy the ID value of content box outer div. I'll go to the style.css and I'll select About content box outer div. We need to set the width and height properties for this content box outer div. And the width property is 100% and the height property is also 100%. By this way, it will take the full width and height of its parent element, and the parent element is About content box and the height for this About content box is 700. Next, I want to set the display property for content box outer div, and it should display as a table. By this way, it will act as a table. Inside the outer box we have About content box inner div. I will copy this ID value and I'll select it inside the style.css and I'll set the display property for this inner box, and the value for the display property is table cell. By this way, it will act as a table data for this outer div. After that, we will use the CSS vertical alignment property, and the value for this vertical align property is middle. This vertical align property is used to set the vertical alignment for an element. In this case, we want the content to be in the middle of content box. I'll save these files and I'll go back to the browser. I'll refresh the page and you'll see a big difference. We have a content box. Inside the content box we have content box outer div, and after that we have content box inner div, which is vertically aligned in the middle of content box. And you can see the CSS rules for the outer div and for the inner div under the style span. By this way, we can vertically align an element using table, table cells, and vertically align middle property. This is the same technique we used for home section. I'll go to the home section. As you can see that we use the same technique for the home section. I could have created a generic class for such element, but I kept it separate because I think we might need to adjust the layout for about section in the responsive layout. Okay. Next, we need to align the heading and the underline to the left. And if I inspect this heading element, we can see the CSS rules for this heading, and you can see that we used generic content title CSS class and it is aligned to center. We need to align this heading which is inside the about section to the left. Let me show you how we can target this h3 element which is inside the about section. We have a section and the ID value for this section is about, and inside this about section we have a div and the class value for this div is content-title, and inside this div we have the h3 element. Let me show you how we can target this h3 element which is inside the about section. I'll write hash about. Inside the about section we have content-title div, and inside the content-title div we have h3 element. By this way we can target the h3 element which is inside the about section. I want this h3 element text aligned to left. I'll save it and I'll refresh the page and you will see that the heading is aligned to the left. Next, let me align this underline to the left. I'll inspect this div element, and if you remember that we added some auto margin. Let me show you. Okay, this is the content title underline element, and you can see that we used auto margin for left and for the right side. These auto margins were used to horizontally center align this underline element, but in this case we don't need these margins. I'll remove these margins. We have about section. Inside the about section we have content title div, and inside this we have content title underline div, and I'll set the margin for this underline. The top margin needs to be 0, write 0, and I'll keep the bottom margin to 30 pixel, and I will remove the left margin 0 pixel, and it will be automatically aligned to the left. Awesome. You can see that the underline is aligned to the left. I think we don't need this content-title div. It will also work like this way. Inside the about section we have content title underline div. I'll save style.css. I'll refresh the page. Okay, it works. Now you can see that we have removed the auto margins. After the heading we have a paragraph element, and the paragraph element is inside the about-description div. I'll inspect this p element, and you can see that there is some default margin at the bottom of p element. You can see that in light brown color. We need to remove this margin and we will apply some custom margins. I think we just need to add some 30 pixel margin at the bottom of this p element. I'll go to the style.css and I'll select this p element. And I'll set the margin bottom to 30 pixel. Okay, now it looks fine. Okay, in next video I'll style this button element and we will add some animations to about section. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.